Hermes Trismegistus and the 7 Universal Laws. Who is Hermes, and the definition and spiritual meaning of these laws? Hermes Trismegistus is primarily mentioned in occult literature as the Egyptian sage. He is considered the father of the philosophers or the 3 times master. He is described as the one who provides the triple teaching, and this is because Hermes is the master of existence, wisdom, and life. This means that he is the master of consciousness, wisdom and will, which are the 3 attributes or faculties of the being, for its expression, in the physical world. Hermeticism is attributed to Hermes. What is it is a philosophical doctrine, written in the texts called Hermetism or Hermetica. It covers a wide variety of treatises on spiritual subjects, and can go back to the 2nd or 3rd century before Christ. Many of the texts were subsequently translated into other languages, often extensively modified and expanded over the centuries. Of these Hermetic texts, the Emerald Tablet is the most important. The Emerald Tablet has the purpose of revealing the secret of the primordial substance and its transmutations. What does this mean? The primordial substance is the universal mind, its transmutations. It is the materialization of the thoughts, through the mind, to the physical world, which encompasses the total transformation of the personal mind, to the universal spiritual mind, being the same mind, only that expanded, from the limited, to the unlimited, this due to the degree of consciousness reached, from the personal consciousness, to the impersonal or divine consciousness. The Hermetic, they focus mainly on the relationship between human beings, with the cosmos and God, who focus on spiritual development, on the path to your true inner self, which is nothing other than spiritual awakening, and the way to your essential reality. The teachings of Hermes Trismegistus go back to the esoteric schools, such as that of Memphis, Thebes, Heliopolis, and the Sphinx of Giza. There, in those temples, the candidates underwent certain tests, to enter, as initiates, to the knowledge and practice of the mental domain, and the development of consciousness. We can mention that in the school of the Sphinx, I studied the Logos, which is the name given to Jesus the Christ, who not only finished his studies and practices there, but also showed a new, spiritual path for candidates and teachers. In addition to contemporary documents, this is recorded in the Aquarian Age Spiritual Gospel Book of Jesus the Christ, of the Piscean Age, which was written by Levi H. Dowling. Within the teachings of Hermes, the 7 universal laws are defined, which are contemplated in the Book of the Kybalion, which is a document from 1908, which summarizes the teachings of Hermeticism, also known as the 7 Principles of Hermeticism. Its authorship is attributed to an anonymous group of people calling themselves the 3 Initiates. It is considered that the author who signed it was William Walker Atkinson. The 7 Universal Hermetic Laws, we will mention how they were originally defined, and in turn, we will describe them with their esoteric or spiritual meaning. These laws are described from the deepest meaning that it contains. 1. Mentalism. The whole is mind, the universe is mental. The whole is the totalizing whole. There is nothing outside of the whole. For your understanding of this law, we will indicate the meaning of mind. What we call mind is like an infinite substance, ultra subtle, impalpable, imponderable, intangible and invisible that surrounds all bodies and they are in it like fish in the sea. When the substance that we call matter is subtle, that is, it goes from the solid state to the liquid state and from this to the gaseous state, it can pass to more subtle states and then we call it mental substance. Conversely, when the mental substance condenses or shapes or densifies, It takes on the aspect of matter. We live and move in that infinite substance. Definition of Cesar Segundo Carvajal. It is the plane through which the being expresses itself. It is the universal substance composed of consciousness, wisdom and will, and constituted by the original thinking activity of the being, forming the idea of himself, thanks to its trinity of attributes. Instrument of the eye, more subtle, which is not seen by the material eyes, but which is more real than the physical body. Substance resulting from the coordination or cooperation of the superior qualities of the being. From the book of the Glossary of Voices of the World Institution of the Impersonal Life of Luciano Gonzalez Burns, and the Impersonal Life of Joseph Benner, translated by Luciano Gonzalez Burns. Therefore, in the physical world, everything that surrounds us, even our physical body, is mind but densified or materialized, because the mind is the substance, from which all matter is made. 2. Correspondence. As above, so below, as inside, so outside. He states that this principle manifests itself in the three great planes, the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. This law refers to the law of expression, the cosmic or absolute being manifests itself in the macrocosm, and this same being manifests itself in the microcosm, as a center of action of its own, this conceived by God in the soul of the true man or relative condition of this being. How your being is omnipresent manifests itself at the same time, in all the centers of expression, which is oneself in unification, that is, the self that, being inexhaustible, impossibilities of expression, expresses itself in all the self, as facets of the same be. 3. Vibration. Nothing is immobile, everything moves, everything vibrates. This is referred to the law of manifestation of the Supreme Being. The being, when expressing itself, does so through energy that emanates from its being, transmitting itself to the universal mind, in subtle energy that spreads, through vibrations, which transcend from the mind to the physical world. These vibrations are in everything which makes frequencies, from thoughts to matter, where this energy is always active, magnetism, light, sound, thoughts, matter, absolutely everything is energy in motion. And what are these vibrations? They are the breath of life of God. 4. Polarity. Everything is double, everything has two poles, everything, its pair of opposites, the similar and the antagonistic are the same, the opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree, the extremes touch, all truths are half-truths, all paradoxes can be reconciled. This refers to what is apparently dual, on the physical and mental plane. It is not, but one of them is in a diminished degree, but remains the same, for example, good and evil, in the eyes of the self. Personal or ego, it is the opposite, but evil is only less good. Love and hate, only the latter is less love, etc. In the consciousness of the inner self and the consciousness of the personal self, the latter is a diminished aspect of the spiritual or inner consciousness, a lesser consciousness being that expressed by the personal self or ego. The thing, about reconciling, or touching extremes, etc. It refers to the fact that on the spiritual path personal consciousness is merged or unified with spiritual consciousness, through spiritual awakening and recognition of the being, that is, realizing that our mind, emotions and physical body are only our means of expression. And it's not us. Duality is unified on the higher planes. 5. Rhythm. Everything ebbs and flows, everything has its periods of advance and retreat, everything rises and falls, everything moves like a pendulum, the measure of its movement to the right is the same as that of its movement to the left, The rhythm is the compensation. This law refers to the fact that when we express ourselves through the mind, emotions and physical body, in that act of giving what we are, it returns to us what we give, not because we request it, but because the being is the same being in everyone. It is as if we gave ourselves that expression. In other words, there is only one being, the universal or cosmic being, and it is expressed through the I in relative manifestation, these I being ourselves. Therefore there is always compensation or balance. It is the law of expression, in relation to its essence to its substance, where the substance of the being is defined in the mind and operates under the law of thinking is creating. This law of rhythm applies to our thinking, that is, it manifests, as we think as we live, what we think, that is, the rhythm applies to the way in which thoughts are transmitted, through vibrations, which generate frequencies, where the rhythm is contained in this balance to manifest itself. When we manifest our unity consciousness, the perfect balance is reached, in vibrations that transmit perfection and abundance, characteristics of the Supreme Plan. This law also affects the laws of physics, in music, in the propagation of light, etc. in the material world. 6. Cause and effect. Every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause, everything happens according to the law. Luck or chance do not exist. There are many plans of causality, but nothing escapes the law. The mental world is the world of causes and the material world of effects. As we think as we create, and these thoughts are materialized by the law of thinking is creating, we define our material world from the mind. This is due to the fact that in the law, thinking is creating, the thoughts that enter the subconscious mind will tend to materialize. Therefore the effect is always the result of a cause, and this is mental. There is nothing that exists in the universe that has not been thought of, both in the macrocosm, divine or absolute consciousness, and in the microcosm, the consciousness of man. 7. Gender. Gender exists everywhere, everything has its masculine and feminine principle. Generation manifests itself on all planes. The idea of the evolution of the human being is governed by this law. In the mental world, the idea of expression of himself in the material world was conceived by God. This is the so-called soul, where the perfect idea of the being is contained in its most sublime expression. That is, the expression of God on earth. Or Christ consciousness. In the soul, the characteristics of both genders are contemplated, in addition to the infinite possibilities of expression, as well as the sufficient and perfect information of the consciousness in man, through its evolutionary process. It should be noted that there is only one soul for every being. This is because there is only one, infinite being, omnipresent, omniscient and omnivolent, that is to say, that is and is, everywhere, that knows everything and knows that he knows who he is, and that has an infinite and eternal will. The above is because the being, having omnipresence, is in essence and in substance at the same time, that is, in the spiritual plane and in the mental and physical plane. Both genders manifest balance in the manifestation process. Thanks for your attention. Any questions?